You cannot give your energy away carelessly and expect to remain whole. It is one of the few resources in life that no one can truly give back to you once it has been spent without purpose. No one can lend you more of it when you are exhausted in spirit. No one can fully restore it for you after it has been drained by obligations you never truly wanted, conversations you forced yourself through, or commitments you accepted out of guilt rather than conviction. Yet many people live as though their energy is endless, as though attention, emotional steadiness, focus, and inner peace will somehow replenish themselves no matter how carelessly they are spent. Day after day, they pour themselves into demands, requests, distractions, and noise, and then wonder why they feel heavy, scattered, and inwardly distant from themselves. The truth is that clarity, peace, and focus are not side benefits of a good life. They are among its deepest measures. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that his mind, his judgments, and his inner life belonged to him, and that no one could truly invade that inner fortress unless he allowed it. That is the forgotten discipline of our time, the ability to guard one's inner life with care, not from fear, but from wisdom. Imagine moving through your day with the quiet strength to protect your energy as if it were sacred currency, valuable, finite, and worthy of deliberate stewardship. Imagine being able to say yes without resentment and no without guilt. Imagine honoring your attention enough to stop offering it to every passing demand, every draining conversation, every unnecessary burden, simply because someone else expects it. This kind of discipline does not make you cold, distant, or unkind. On the contrary, it makes you stronger, steadier, and more present. It allows you to bring your full self to what matters, rather than leaving fragments of yourself scattered everywhere. The ability to choose where you give your energy and where you withhold it is not arrogance, it is self-mastery. And self-mastery is one of the purest forms of freedom. The heaviest burdens in life are often not the visible ones. They are the expectations we absorb without question, the endless noise we mistake for importance, the obligations we accept out of habit, and the unconscious ways we allow our energy to be claimed by the world around us. Every interaction, every expectation, every unresolved demand takes something from us. Yet most of us move through life as if this cost does not exist, only to wake up one day feeling drained, disconnected, and unsure why. There are moments when a conversation leaves you with space inside yourself, a quiet openness, a subtle sense of ease, as if your mind can breathe again after being cramped for too long. You walk away lighter, calmer, more settled in yourself. These moments may be rare, but when they occur, they are unmistakable. And then there are other encounters, the kind that seem ordinary from the outside but leave a residue inside you. A conversation ends, but the fatigue remains. A request is fulfilled, but your inner balance feels slightly disturbed. A simple exchange lingers as tension, irritation, or mental heaviness long after it is over. This difference is not imaginary. It reflects an invisible economy of energy that shapes every day of your life, whether you are aware of it or not. Every interaction is an exchange. Some restore, some deplete. Some expand your spirit, and others contract it. Often the difference is not only in what is said or done, but in what is happening within you before, during, and after the encounter. The state of your mind, the clarity of your boundaries, and the strength of your inner discipline determine how much is preserved and how much is quietly lost. Boundaries are what regulate this flow. When they are clear, energy moves with purpose. When they are weak or undefined, energy leaks without notice. It seeps away into other people's assumptions, emotional demands, anxieties, emergencies, and expectations, until you find yourself depleted without fully understanding why. To define a boundary is not to punish others. It is not to isolate yourself or become harsh. It is to declare with self-respect what belongs to you and what does not. It is to draw a line between what you can carry with honesty and what was never yours to carry at all. Stoicism teaches that disturbance comes less from events themselves and more from our judgments about them. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events, and in that realization lies strength. Energy is not merely physical stamina, it is mental clarity, emotional steadiness, spiritual vitality, and the inner capacity to meet life with intention. To let it be borrowed indiscriminately is to trade your peace for someone else's convenience. Too often people say yes automatically, explain themselves excessively, overextend their time, and assume their reserves are bottomless. But every commitment costs something. Every word spoken, every promise made, every obligation accepted requires energy, and that energy is finite, precious, and directly connected to the quality of the life you are able to live. Real reflection begins with observation. Some people drain your energy without any conscious harm in their hearts. They may not be malicious. They may simply be lost, dependent, restless, or uncentered themselves, searching for relief in the attention of others. Some drain through habit, some through expectation, some through their inability to regulate themselves, and still others drain you because you have unknowingly trained them to expect your endless availability. In every case, the real problem is not simply the other person. It is the failure to recognize energy as something tangible and worthy of protection. Once you begin to understand that every conversation, request, and obligation is an investment, your entire life starts to look different. You begin to ask whether an exchange leaves you with clarity or confusion, peace or agitation, presence or exhaustion. You begin to recognize that energy, like time, should not be spent carelessly. And because energy is not spent only in the moment, but ripples into everything that follows, its careless loss affects much more than a single interaction. A draining morning colors the afternoon. Repeated overextension weakens patience. Constant depletion reduces the mind's ability to judge wisely. When your reserves are already taxed, you stop responding intentionally and start reacting automatically. You become vulnerable to impulse, irritation, confusion, and fatigue. This is why preserving energy is not a luxury. It is a condition for living with reason and steadiness. This principle mirrors the Stoic understanding of freedom itself. Freedom does not come from doing whatever you feel in the moment. It comes from mastery over what lies within your control. Fatigue grows when you surrender yourself to what lies without it. To live with boundaries is not to withdraw from life. It is to participate in life from a place of clarity. And that clarity depends as much on your inner world as your outer one. Some of the deepest drains on energy do not come from people at all. They come from internal habits, anxiety over being judged, imagined obligations, compulsive comparison, silent guilt, or constant pressure to prove your worth. These internal drains often consume more energy than external demands ever could. Stoicism teaches that the mind plays a decisive role in shaping our experience. If your attention is unconsciously handed over to regret, fear, comparison, or worry, then your energy has been spent before the day has even truly begun. That is why practices like meditation, journaling, stillness, contemplative walking, and time in nature are not indulgences. They are forms of restoration. They allow the mind to step out of reaction and return to observation. They help you notice where your energy is going, what is taking too much of it, and what patterns need to be interrupted if you are to live with any real freedom. Once these insights begin to integrate into your life, your experience changes. Protecting energy stops being an abstract idea, and it becomes a practical way of living. You no longer see preserving energy as avoidance. You see it as deliberate allocation. You begin to engage fully in work, relationships, and responsibilities that are meaningful and aligned, while stepping back from those that simply consume without enriching. You stop measuring yourself by how much of yourself you can give away, and begin measuring yourself by the quality of your presence in what truly matters. In doing so, you become more resilient, more focused, and more inwardly free. Each intentional choice strengthens your ability to act instead of react. Every moment of conscious attention becomes an exercise in Stoic self-governance. As you reflect on your own days and weeks, it becomes worth asking, what consumes your energy unnecessarily? Which obligations leave you empty? Which relationships restore you? What deserves your full presence, and what has merely been receiving it by default? Every moment you reclaim is a step toward autonomy. Every unnecessary drain you interrupt is a step toward clarity. Every boundary you honor is a step toward living with integrity rather than compulsion. This has practical implications that are subtle but profound. Once you become aware of energy as something real and measurable in your own experience, you develop discernment. You stop seeing every request as equally deserving. You stop